Hey, how you guys doing? So this is Neil from PerfectSunLED.com, and this video I'll be going over whether or not you should be using the fungi, which is Micorrhizae, in your grow. If you just want the short answer, I'm going to give you the short answer first. If you want a more detailed answer, get into the science of why, then stay tuned for that. We'll go over that afterwards. Before we dive into this, I know there'll be some smart asses like it's not said Micorrhizae. Well, it is. That's the Latin pronunciation, and that's adopted in most of our language, such as Caesar and algae, both having the AE ending, or there's AE ending on algae and the AE in the center of Caesar, and the middle, begin, whatever. So that's how it's said. But there are people that say it Micorrhizae, and there are those that just say Micorrhizas for plural and Micorrhiza for singular. That's fine, acceptable, just as bacteria and bacterias is acceptable, and so is bacterium singular and bacteria plural. So it just depends on what you want to go with. The Latin, in this case the Greek, I guess, because it is a Greek origin, but no one says it that way really, but it's becoming more popular to be said that way. So anyway, next time someone smart ass tries to tell you it's pronounced, at least now you know the not the science, but the linguistics behind it. That etymology is Greek, but the pronunciation by scientists is Latin. So if you want to sound like a botanist, then you would say Micorrhizae. Anyway, so that's out of the way. Let's go and get started. So why would you not use Micorrhizae within your grow? So that, like I said, the short answer will be first, and I'll go into what Micorrhizae is, how it works, and then you can see for yourself why it is or is not beneficial for your style of growing. So the short answer is, if you're delivering chelated amino acids and broken down nutrients such as what I use, cycloflower nutrients, to your plant, then there really is no beneficial reason to use Micorrhizae. You're going to see that in a second. So basically, if you're growing in some sort of hydroponic way, like my coco method, or if you're growing, basically if you're using synthetic nutrients to deliver them right to your plants, there's really no reason to have Micorrhizae in your grow. This is a fungi. Basically, it's the same kind of fungus. As a matter of fact, a lot of it is a type of mushroom fungus, but for whatever reason doesn't actually flower, doesn't actually produce the mushroom. Very interesting. Mycorrhizae and just in general, the fungi for mushrooms are super intelligent, and how they communicate from plant to plant, and how they, it's just really interesting. If you haven't watched anything about that, I highly recommend to look up a video on YouTube. I can't remember what it's called right now. Something about plants and how they talk to each other, something like that. But this fungus between plants is absolutely amazing, between root growths, like in the rainforest, but also especially in the redwood forest. Just crazy. Anyway, so if you're growing in any type of medium where you're using more organic nutrients that aren't so broken down, they're larger, then this is absolutely something you want to use. I've been working on a hybrid method for a long time. I actually made a video a while ago using Dr. Earth, which works pretty good. It's a hydro-organic method, getting the benefits of using a living coco. So in this case, the cocoa is like your soil, so it's like a living soil, but in this case, living cocoa, but still being able to water it daily, getting the benefits of the hydro from the cocoa as well, but not disturbing the living form of the soil so much. Anyway, so I've been working on that. I'm going to be doing another grow here soon. Matter of fact, I think once this one's done, the one I have going now out there, we haven't done an update yet, sorry. I will do the update on it. We have the video, just haven't updated yet. We have new plants in there ready to go. They're only 2 days old. But anyway, so there's a photo period in that. I hope. I got 2 seeds mixed up, and I hope that I didn't, because I dropped them. I hope I didn't. I got the right one. Anyway, so if that turns out, then I'll be doing a organic grow with that one. And it'll be a hydro-organic, using new stuff. And I've been working out a new method. Hopefully it'll work really, really awesome, making it super easy to get the benefits of both hydro and organic. But anyway, so that's a short answer. If you're growing with synthetics, don't worry about the fungi. It's not really going to help you much, if at all. And then if you're growing with any type of organic nutrient where it's larger molecules that have to be broken down more, it's not as readily available. In other words, slow release type. Don't bother if you have slow release synthetic nutrients. I don't know why you're using that. That's weird. Just if you're going to use synthetic, use good chelated amino acid type stuff. Use a good nutrient, because it's pointless to use a slow release nutrient if it's not organic. But if it's organic, then this is where this is going to help you a lot. So let's get into Micorrhizae and how it is, or what it is and how it works. So first off, like I said, it's a fungus. And so let's say you have your root mass coming off your plant here. You have your main roots right here. I'm just going to kind of, this is like your main tap root, and you have a couple other roots coming off of here. I'm not trying to draw this super good because it'll take too long. Just to get a general idea, right? And then your plant comes up here and breaks off, whatever, and that's your plant. This is the soil. Now you can actually do this with cocoa, just so you know. You don't have to use typical soil, but you want to put some stuff in your cocoa. Oh, by the way, one thing that your plants can benefit from is using something like I think it's called C90, which is like it's a salt that has like 90 amino acids in it. You want to be very sparingly use it very sparingly, maybe a teaspoon per like 4 gallons or 5 gallons. That'll add a lot of micronutrients, or you can just sprinkle some azomite on top of your cocoa, and that will slowly water into your plant and make the micronutrients available. This isn't really beneficial to like the smell and flavor and stuff like that. Some people think it is, but it's very useful if you plan to eat the marijuana at all. If you plan to consume it in some way, it should add some of those micronutrients into it, so you get better nutrients out of it. But this will be like juicing. And by the way, I have a raw juicing method that will actually get you high for many hours. If for those that want to try it, if you don't have a juicer, you can use a blender. Blend up really good. You want to blend up, don't blend up too much though, but you want to blend up the pot leaves. You can add some nugs in there if you want to as well, and then blend up tangerine, and then blend up coconut. It has to be raw, whole coconut, not dried coconut. And something about that mixture activates the marijuana even though it's not heated up. That's the typical belief, is that it must be heated up. The acids in the tangerine break it down, and the THCA breaks it down, like that cooks the THCA into THC available to the body. And something about the coconut fatty acids help the uptake of that into your body and get you high. So anyway, it was done by the Green Gardener or something like that. I can't remember his name. He does a lot of organic stuff. He's he just grows vegetables for himself. He's a raw foodist now for 20 years. He works with a guy that does Boogie Brew, which I'm going to be trying this next grow. I think Josh is his name, and that guy has grown marijuana and smokes a lot of marijuana, and he tried the drink as well, and it got him extremely high for like 10 hours, so that's crazy. Anyway, so if you want to try that, try it. Let me know in the comments if you tried that drink and how it worked out for you. Just make sure you like being high, because I guess it gets you really high. Okay, so back to the Micorrhizae. So what happens here is the Micorrhizae, we'll draw these in like a green color for the hell of it. They attach on the roots here, and sometimes they do create longer, thinner, like this. So they basically extend your roots. It's not the root itself, it's the Micorrhizae that is doing this, but it extends the roots, so it makes them longer. And this allows the plant to have more available nutrients to it than what the roots normally have. It can get into crevices and stuff where nutrients are unavailable to the plant root to reach, but the fungus can actually reach it. Now, how this works as far as the symbiotic relationship between the fungi and the plant, and it lives on and around the roots. So there's two different types. There's endo and there's ecto. Endo Micorrhizae is most likely what you're going to be using if you're buying it for horticulture reasons. And that, let's say this is the cell. They attach here inside. That's endo. So it attaches inside the cellular wall or membrane. And then there's ecto, which exist and attach on the outside of the cell like that. These are the two types. Sometimes you'll buy it and it'll have both types. I just bought some and it has both ecto and endo included in it, species included in it. I think so. Maybe not. Maybe it only has endo. I can't remember. But anyway, it's most commonly the endo is what you're going to be working with. Okay, so now we have that out of the way. So what they do is they attaching to the either, and it's okay, we'll just deal with the endo. They attach to the inner cell of all the cells in your roots, mainly on the outer cells of your roots. They communicate with the plant. The plant up here has a leaf coming off of it, and that leaf, obviously gets nutrients from the sun, or not nutrients from the sun, but it helps it produce nutrients by using the solar energy, and it produces sugars and things like this, carbohydrates, and simple sugars being one of them, glucose and sucrose, and that is put down into the plant, into the root system, where these fungi live off of that. So they eat the carbohydrates that the plant produces for them. So that's part of the symbiotic relationship. That's what they are getting out of the plant. So the plant is producing sugars, basically sugars for the fungi, the Micorrhizae, to survive and to feed on. In return, the Micorrhizae are extending the root structure they're acting like an extension of the root structure, able to pull out nutrients. But they also break down nutrients, especially nitrogen and phosphorus. Sorry, I'm thinking of potassium. Okay, I always forget that one because it starts with a K and the NPK, like the letters for it, and so I always end up forgetting that it's potassium. But anyway, it doesn't really help with potassium much. Neither does bacteria really either. But it does help with the nitrogen, so it breaks down nitrogen that's available, that's not so available to the plant, or helps pull nitrogen that's not so available to the plant, and also phosphorus and also iron and some other things. The problem is, you can see that if the nitrogen is out here and the roots are way up here so they can't reach it, the Micorrhizae can reach down here and grab those nitrogen molecules. The thing is, though, if you're feeding with chelated material, the roots don't have this issue because all of it's available to the plant. That's we're like force feeding the plant with chemical nutrients. There's a lot of reasons why not to use chemical nutrients, especially for your food, but also for your marijuana as well. One thing I've noticed over the years, doing different experiments, is that, and also watching other people's grows and seeing them change from synthetic nutrients to organics, and seeing the difference in the same strain they've been growing for a long time, because they grow a couple strains and they've stuck to those strains for years, doing clones of them. That it gets more frosty. The smell is higher, like it has a more pungent smell. Whatever smell that weed has, it comes through stronger, and it's awesome. And the flavors come through better. So the marijuana tastes better. It's smoother. Sometimes the smoothness doesn't really change too much, but definitely it has a stronger flavor. And so if it already has a good flavor, it's even better now because it comes through stronger. The smell, like if you want that nice pungent, you open that bag and you're like, ooh, that smells good. A lot of people like that. They really dig that smell, the aroma, and that's going to come through stronger. And then oftentimes the frost will get more because you're increasing the bricks, the high brick, or I think it's called that, but you're increasing the amount of sugar that's in the plant. And this actually makes it, if you're doing any kind of organics where you have a living soil or living coco, which is what I've been working on, is the living coco hydro method. And so it's a hydroponic grow. We get the benefits of fast, big growth because we're constantly making nutrients available and watering constantly, but we're also getting benefit of all this living organisms happening inside. And anyway, so that's what I've been working on. That's how I usually do my outside grows. All my tomatoes and all that have a similar type of grow to this. Anyway, so with that, you're getting more sugars into the plant, and with the higher sugar level, this causes the plant to produce more trichome production. Therefore, more oil, you get more sticky, oftentimes more potent, although sometimes it doesn't change the potency so much, but it makes it much easier to turn into oil, or especially if you're doing, like my wife does, making, like squishing it with heat. So using 2 heat plates basically and smashing the bud and getting your oil that way. Which I don't know if it's said rosin or rosin, but you get that out of it. That's basically the method. Anyway, so it makes it to where it's much more oily, and you get more out of it that way. You can get more yield from it that way. But yeah, so anyway, it's overall around, you can get better smoke out of it. And also, if you're making edibles, you get more nutrients from your marijuana doing it this way, and it's going to have a sweeter, better flavor than if it was grown chemically. This is also true of anything you grow in your garden. If you're growing tomatoes, I've noticed that with tomatoes, if I use synthetic nutrients, they're okay, they're fine. But when you grow organically, especially a high bricks method, using the proper, having a true living soil or living coco, then the plant tastes a lot sweeter. It really changes the flavor, and it tastes so much different and better. It still tastes like a tomato, but it's hard to explain the difference, but definitely it's sweeter, just has a better flavor to it overall. And this is true for everything, whether it's zucchini, cucumbers, peppers, everything tastes better. And that's why I always do organic when I grow outdoors for years now. Okay, so that's what basically sorry, I went on a little tangent there, but that's basically what happens with the benefit one way. Now the benefit the other way, like I said, how it benefits the plant, we'll continue on that, is that it makes these nutrients more available to the plant. So it breaks down your larger molecule nutrients. So if you're using a more slow-based, larger moleculed, natural, organic or fertilizer nutrient, let's say Alaska fish, or the one I just got coming here is age-old kelp, I think it's what it's called, age-old seaweed, something like that. It's like a 3-3-2, I think, or a 3-2-2, something like that. It's pretty weak, but it's also more slow release because it's not broken down already, so it has to be broken down in the soil or in the cocoa. In this case, by not just by the bacteria, but also by the fungi. And they all work together. And I could go into like a lot of different bacteria and how they work. It's really cool. But anyway, so having that living organism there will break down that nutrient. Well, if you already have a nutrient that's broken down, there's nothing for the Micorrhizae to break down. But they also serve other purposes besides just breaking down the nutrients and making them more available to plants, especially nitrogen and phosphorus and iron. But they also help water uptake. It's almost like they make the roots get bigger. So instead of a bunch of small straws, they're larger straws. That's an analogy. It's not actually what happens, but it does allow water to be taken up better. It also allows water retention more. It also helps the cycling of your nutrients and the cycling of your water. But bacteria help a lot with that as well. So just having Micorrhizae by itself isn't nearly as beneficial as also having bacteria. But in order to do that, you have to have a living soil or a living cocoa, in which case you need to go organic. Using synthetic nutrients is just defeating the whole purpose, and you're breaking down that whole ecology within your soil. Okay, so that's really the more scientific reason why. And there's other things. Sorry, nose itches. I think sometimes when I'm talking, my mustache hairs will go up into my nose a little bit. Doesn't seem to happen when I'm not like talking a lot though. Anyway, so just make sure I didn't forget anything. That's pretty much it. Like that's what the Micorrhizae do. They do other things too. They can help protect your plant from diseases and things like that. They can help the plants communicate to each other. So if you have more than one plant in a garden bed, they'll help each plant kind of communicate to each other. They create a network between the plants. And if one plant is having sends out a signal of because it sends out certain chemicals and stuff, that is it's like a scream for help, like, hey, we got this predatory bug on me. The Micorrhizae will often help the plants communicate with each other, so that if one plant sends off that signal, the Micorrhizae basically hear it, so to speak, and they send it to the other plant, so they know to produce the chemical to attract the predatory bug to kill that particular bug that's attacking the plant. It's really cool. Willow trees are really, really smart at doing this, at communicating with each other. And just in general, I think without the Micorrhizae, I think they just communicate. But yeah, we're learning a lot about living soil and how it actually is like an underground network for plants to talk to each other. It's really, really cool stuff. But anyway, it does help some with transplant shock, things like that. But again, they also demand from your plant energy in order to feed the Micorrhizae or Micorrhizae. And as they feed the Micorrhizae with the extra plant energy to divert those sugars, if you're not really using them as a benefit of uptaking nutrients, because you're already just slamming with nutrients right away, then it's kind of like, what's really the purpose of them? Yeah, it makes water uptake and all that easier, but it's already easy anyway with my cocoa system, so it just defeats the purpose. It's really a waste of money, is what I'm trying to say. You're already not going to have root problems, all that kind of stuff, because you're not in soil. You're not having to deal with all that kind of stuff. So any problems that you might have, really, Micorrhizae is not going to be beneficial for you. So if you're growing any kind of a hydro way, don't worry about this. It's a waste of money. If the grow shop's trying to sell it to you, it's because they're stupid and they don't know how Micorrhizae works. You can always challenge them sometimes. Say, hey, can you tell me the basic science behind how Micorrhizae work? What do they do? What is it? What's its symbiotic relationship with the plant? How will it help me if I'm growing in cocoa and I'm using synthetic nutrients that are already chilled and broken down and I'm flushing my plant every day? How will that help me? And they're not going to be able to tell you because they don't know what they're talking about. They're just trying to push products and sell to you. And if they do know how it is, then they're going to have a hard time explaining. If you ask them a question, okay, well, how does that help then? If I'm already feeding them broke down nutrients, it's already broken down as small as it can get. The plant is already having an easy time uptaking it. How is that going to help? Oh, well, it opens up the pathway, helps it drink more water. It's already drinking a lot of water, like it doesn't need more, So how would that help my plant again? So just save your money, don't buy it. But if you're working with living soil or living cocoa, then yeah, buy Micorrhizae, definitely use it. Make sure to inoculate the roots. That's how it's supposed to be used. You only have to apply it one time. Don't water with it. You're wasting your money. Take it, apply it, sprinkle it all over the roots before you transplant. That's what you want to do. So with my grow method, if you're doing the 4-inch Rockwell cube method. Once it well, actually, before you even transplant it to rock wool, sprinkle a little bit on that taproot, and then put the rock wool and put the rubber band on it. And then after it starts growing out of the rock wool, again, sprinkle all the outside of the rock wool and sprinkle some inside the hole that you're going to put it inside your cocoa, and then put it inside your cocoa. Bam, you're good to go. And then after that, you're going to definitely want to put stuff into your cocoa. So I recommend using Boogie Brew Tea by Josh. It has all kinds of great stuff, and it's already it's so easy. It's just right there ready for you. Cook it, I don't know why they call it cooking. You just use Airstone for like 45 minutes to however long you need till you start getting a foam on top. And then you take that and you water with it. You don't have to do that every day though. With a living cocoa organic method, you want to do like every 3-4 days, and then in between that you're going to be feeding with organic nutrients. I'm going to show you the organic nutrients I'll be using in this time around, and it's going to be liquid nutrients but you can also put some powder stuff like azomite. Obviously you want that in there. You can also even sprinkle a little bit inside your cocoa, maybe 10%, 20% of worm castings or something like that. Maybe a little bit of the nitrogen available food you can put in there as well. Anyway, I'll go through all that when we get into it. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. When you have that whole living microorganisms biology within your soil, actually living soil, there's a whole cycling process that happens. It breaks down obviously different types of carbon and stuff, which would be different types of sugars, and breaks it down into energy. And the bacteria, a lot of bacteria actually produce nitrogen. They even pull it out of the air. So you have N2 in the air within your root system. And there's a couple species of bacteria that live in the soil that take that N2, which is a type of airborne nitrogen that the plants are not able to uptake. It takes that nitrogen and converts it into ammonia, or NH4, I believe, which the plant then it's turn into amino acids. It's actually the form of nitrogen the plant needs, without having to break it down any further into nitrogen for the plant. I think there's also N3 or NO3, I can't remember the exact type of nitrogen, but that type of nitrogen the plant has to break down into the NH3. I might have those numbers wrong, base ammonia, and then that is able to turn into amino acids. So having that living soil or living cocoa allows all this process to happen, breaking down other things like dead roots or other dead bacteria. Then you might have nematodes eating on the bacteria, which then produces more nitrogen availability. It breaks down the phosphorus inside your, the more slow release nutrients like the phosphorus and the nitrogen and iron and things like that. And it allows the whole entire system the plant to uptake all this stuff. It also creates a very strong barrier against pathogens like different types of mold or fungi and things like that might try to attack your root system and attack your plant. And then also spraying with something like a Boogie Brew Tea, your plant on top as well, it will help protect it against, add some of the bacteria and stuff there onto the leaf surface, and helps protect it against other mold and things like that from happening. So overall it protects your plant, makes them stronger, healthier, makes them stronger against overwatering or underwatering, things like this. Also they store nitrogen, so if you're growing organically and you have this slow release nitrogen, there's a bunch of nitrogen in there, they're not going to break it down when the plant doesn't need it. So it's really hard to over neutralize plants with this particular kind of food that has to be broken down more, slow release food, organic slow release food. And then sorry, I lost my train of thought. But then also they can store nitrogen. So if ever for whatever reason you forget to feed nitrogen, or the nitrogen in the soil goes way down because you're not, like I said, the only way that would happen with the system that I'm going to be showing you here soon, in a future grow here soon, would be is if there wasn't enough available nitrogen. They hold on to it and store it, and then allow it, give it to the plant when it needs it, and the fungi are good at doing that. So that having that living, it's almost like they talk to the plant talks to it, and they're like almost like they're intelligent. It's crazy. And so they can hold on to nitrogen in times of nitrogen drought, and then they release nitrogen to the plant when it actually needs it, when you're not giving it enough available in the soil, when there's not enough available nitrogen in the soil. But with my grow system, we're going to make sure there's always enough available nitrogen in the soil. That's so it's still going to be hydro, and that we're going to be watering every day, but we're going to have a living soil that's being watered every day, and that won't disturb the ecology too much, because naturally, even when cocoa is fully saturated, it has 30% oxygen. So it's a very highly oxygenated environment, allows for the fungi. Fungi can't live without oxygen, so they will drown and die out if you have too much water inside your system. But even when even right after you water cocoa, because it has good drainage and everything like that, right after you water cocoa, it has a lot of oxygen inside of it. All these little microscopic areas of a bunch of oxygen for the fungi to thrive around the root system, and also for the bacteria to thrive. You don't want the bacteria that lives in water. That is actually not beneficial to your plant, really. The kinds that break down and decompose organic matter and also make nutrients more available and do all these beneficial things for your plant are the ones that thrive in oxygen. And so cocoa allows for a high oxygenated area for those bacteria to outnumber the other bacteria. So that's a good thing, because there's still going to be pockets where those other bacteria live, anaerobic, I think, and they live inside of the pockets of cocoa that's fully saturated with water still. We're talking on a microscopic scale. But on a microscopic scale, you're going to see this is like this. Let's say this is a pocket of wet area. All of this around it is dry. So there's a lot more dry area in cocoa than there is wet. Well, overall, for at least in the root zone, for where the bacteria can live. And so you're going to have a high number of beneficial bacteria and beneficial fungi living in the living cocoa. That's actually even easier to live in than soil. You can actually make a soil out of cocoa. You can use like cocoa and then like 30% worm castings and 2 to 5% azomite or something like that, and some other humus and some other things you can use and put in there. Basically the same thing you would use to make a soil, but instead of using like rice hull or peat moss or something like that, you would use cocoa instead. But I would recommend having it be mostly cocoa and only a little bit of the worm castings and a couple other things, because you really need it to be able to move water very quickly and have a lot of aeration in it. And adding too much other stuff will take that away from it. Then you can't grow with it hydroponically. However, if you're going to make a soil, I recommend using cocoa as your base anyway. So if once you make it into a soil, once you add enough amendments to it, you have to treat it like a soil. You have to let it dry out like a soil would. I'm trying to come up with I have come up with a method. I'm just perfecting that method of growing living cocoa hydroponically, which allows me to get the benefit of feeding daily, so constantly having fresh oxygen, fresh water, fresh nutrients, all available to the plant, all being broken down by the living organisms, getting the benefit of everything from both worlds, all organic, so that you get nice frosty buds, you get nice big flowers, fast flowers, and so forth. So that's the ultimate goal, is to come up with a organic method that works just as good as a synthetic method as far as weight of the plant, so the size of the buds and the weight of the buds, but getting all the benefits of organic as well, the better flavor, the better smell, and the more frosty plants. So get the best of both worlds is the goal. And I've come close to that goal. We'll see if I can achieve it this time. That is, truly get a revolutionary fast growth and weight, which you do because you're watering every day. But it's just, we'll see if the organic nutrients can deliver enough to the plant that it needs to grow so spectacularly big. But anyway, there is a lot more you can learn about with the Micorrhizae. There's a lot of studies done to it, so look at some studies online. It's really fascinating what this stuff does, how this fungi works, and also look into soil bacteria and just soil microbes in general, and just how living soil works, and different bacteria and how they convert different types of air nitrogen into available plant nitrogen and things like that, and how they break down compost organic material into nutrients for the plant to use. They just make a lot of nutrients available to the plant that wouldn't ordinarily be available to the plant. And then if you make the soil healthy, that if you're putting all the minerals and stuff into the soil, then the living soil, the bacteria and stuff like that, and then the fungi can all work together and make all those minerals available to your plant. And this is very useful, especially for your garden, for your food. If you want food that's full of nutrients, I highly recommend doing a living soil or living cocoa, and benefit from having all those awesome nutrients. And you'll see the what I'm going to be using. I'll lay it all out in the living cocoa hydro method. I'll lay out everything I'm going to be using, how I'm going to be using it. And you can use something similar like that outdoors and get awesome growth results, and just get really, really healthy food that'll have all those micronutrients in it, and it'll have all the minerals that are lacking from a lot of other food. So yeah, and you'll definitely taste the difference for sure. I was thinking about going through the bacteria a little bit. Actually, I will. Might as well. The video's already long anyway. So just a little bit about bacteria. So like I said, there's different kinds of bacteria, and loosely they kind of do something similar to the fungi. A lot of them also live off the carbohydrates that are inside of the root zone that's produced by the plant. And so these carbohydrates or sugars they live off of, and then they produce they're high in nitrogen, so they naturally, when they die, they have a short lifespan. So when they die, they release that nitrogen back into the system. They also get killed by other things, and that produce nitrogen. They also produce nitrogen themselves. So in general, just having the bacteria there makes a lot more available nitrogen and also phosphorus to your plants and other nutrients. They also create better water retention, and they also create more like water uptake. They make it easier for the plant root system to absorb water from the soil, and they make a bunch of like aeration and pathways in between there. They protect the plant against harmful bacteria and harmful pathogens and other harmful fungi and things like that. So they overall just make the plant a lot healthier, and that whole system is healthier. So yeah, they do a lot of cool stuff. I don't want to bore you too much, but definitely I recommend, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, look into the soil biology and soil microbes and soil bacteria. Those are different search things you can do to get different articles to pop up, all pretty much talking about the same stuff. And then also look into the Micorrhizae and its benefit to just read the wiki page on it in general, just to get an idea more about it. I mean, I pretty much already taught you like the general idea of it, but just to get, to really solidify into your mind, and then to look at more deep studies done by professors and stuff like that. They have written papers online you can read for free about different studies and stuff of how it helps plants communicate with each other and things like that. And just, yeah, it's really awesome. But in short, it's, if you use the system I'm going to be showing you soon, it has all that into it. So I think actually Boogie Brew already has Micorrhizae in it, but I'm going to still inoculate my root system with it because it's better to put it right on the roots to make sure that that's where it needs to be. And Boogie Brew, you can actually dip it in the Boogie Brew too as well. Like dip in the Boogie Brew and then use that wetness of the Boogie Brew to sprinkle the Micorrhizae right on the root zone before you transplant it into the pot it's going to grow in. But we'll go through all that. Yeah. So it's also, stay tuned. I need to still do the update of the grow. All the plants are hung and drying now. We forgot to put that one. It's still hanging there. I'm looking at right now the Colorado cookies. The buds are big. Wait till you see these buds. They're dry and they're still like big. They dried big fat buds. It's pretty cool. But we need to put those into the paper sack, and then the paper sack for like a day or two to equalize and help it dry a little bit more. And then from there, put that inside of the whole paper sack inside of a trash bag. And this is the Humboldt method. And then zip tie that up, or just cinch it up so that, or just twist it and fold it over, or whatever, if it doesn't have that style of bag. It's a big garbage bag basically. And then you let that sit there for several more days. And then that helps it neutralize and equalize and dry out just a little bit more. And then at that point, it's ready to go into jars. If you're not sure how to do this, go to either one of the websites, either growpotcheaply.com or perfectsunled.com, and go to the free go course. At the bottom of the free go course is my dry cure method. And that's actually something I learned from my grandpa out of Humboldt, California, is where he grows. Excellent method. Just awesome. It's the best dry cure method I've ever tried, and it makes my weed smell great. Even strains that usually don't, like usually auto strains that usually don't have much of a smell, it makes them still smell great. They might still not have a really strong smell, but at least they smell good. Versus no smell at all if you use a different dry method. But also those strains, if you grow organically, like if you grow with my living coco hydro method, or you grow some other organic method that uses living soil, those strains are going to smell a lot stronger. So if you grow chemically and then even if you cure well, they're not going to have much of a smell to them, a little bit. But if you grow organically and cure it well, it's going to smell very potent. So, or at least a lot more potent than it normally would. Like I said, some auto strains literally don't smell like anything, even if you cure it well. do a great grow, awesome cure, and they still don't really have much of a smell to them. At least not to a nose that's so used to it. Somebody else might be able to smell it that is not used to smelling weed all the time. But to me, it's like, I don't really smell anything. And so that sucks when it happens. But when you grow organically in a good cure method, it's always going to have a smell to it, even if it normally doesn't. So, alrighty then, double peace guys. If you want any questions answered, please leave your question in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to answer your question. Go ahead and like and subscribe, because that's going to help this channel grow. And why do you want to help this channel grow? Because we want to help more people learn how to grow their own awesome medicine. That's why. Because we're a community and we all should help spread the news so that more people can learn to grow their own medicine. It's unfortunate that so many people out there just don't know how to grow good marijuana, and my system is so easy to learn. These plants were done my wife's first grow. Look how great they came out. and it's just amazing. And that was done without her having a sheet. I need to make her the sheet. I actually already have it on the book now. I've been working on the book, and I have like 4 chapters done, and I already have the checklist, the things you want to go over every single day. I might make that available on Patreon. So people have been telling me, dude, to start a Patreon account, you should really do that. And if you guys think that's a good idea, let me know. If you guys would support the Patreon would basically pay for me doing the videos and getting the information. And I mean, I do it for free anyway, but it would just give me some extra money, which would be kind of cool. Especially if my other businesses decide to go like that, at least I'd have some backup money, right? Another source of income. And it's a good way just to support everything. And then that will help me give away free stuff more. So I can be like, hey, Patreon made this much money. Let's give away a free light, to somebody. And yeah, so also on the Patreon, it'll just make it easier to access certain information for those that really want it. They tend to think that if you pay for it, it's more valuable to you. And so for things like the feeding chart, I can do an updated feeding chart and put that on Patreon. And then also things like just other information that wouldn't be on my site readily available. The thing like the chart in my book. So instead of having to buy the book, you can do the Patreon and get the feeding chart memory. If you already know my system pretty well, but you just want that checklist, the thing you can look at and just look over everything, make sure you checked everything in your grow room. Go, okay, that check, everything's good. That we don't forget stuff, because when you forget stuff, that's when you usually have problems with your plants. And so that checklist is very, very helpful. Things like that. So making maybe parts of the book available, make a discount for the book if you're a Patreon contributor or something like that. Get the book for cheaper. Obviously, I can do a book launch that way too. So I can say, hey, to everyone on Patreon, if you donate this much money, which would be less than what the book is going to be sold for, then you get or I can do a special like, if you pay this much, you get a first copy of the book signed by me, which means I'm paying extra shipping because it's being shipped to me first, so I can sign it. Because it'd be Amazon that produces the book, and then they would ship it to me, and I would sign it, then I ship it to you. So I'm paying the extra shipping to have it sent to me and then sent to you. I'm also paying for the books that way. But it doesn't really matter if I'm paying for the books, but it's still extra money that I wouldn't have. If you just bought from Amazon, I wouldn't have to pay for it, but then you wouldn't have it signed, right? So I can do something like that, like pay this much, you get like a signed copy, and if you pay this much, you'll be the first ones to get a copy, a discounted copy, something like that. Then there's going to be digital copies as well, which will be good for like people that are on their phones or iPads or Android pads or whatever. All right, so let me know what you think about that. If you have any ideas what you'd like to see, if I do start a Patreon, what would you like to see in the Patreon? Maybe, I don't know, behind the scenes videos, or maybe have I don't know, should I put my more extended videos in Patreon? So I'm like, oh, like this video is really long right now. I can cut a lot of this out, when I'm editing, and then put that on Patreon. If you want, if you want the rest of me talking, you go to Patreon to see. If you just want the main information, then here's the main information. Or should I make a more rigorously edited video on Patreon? So if you don't want to watch the 40-minute video, here's a 10-minute version with all the main information and something like that. Let me know your ideas. What do you think? I'm rambling now. Double P's. Thanks for watching.